This is Technically Legal, a podcast about legal technology, innovation in the legal industry, and the impact tech is having on the law. I'm Chad Main, the founder of legal services company Percipient, and on the show today, I'm talking to Sean Fitzpatrick. He's the CEO of LexisNexis North America, UK, and Ireland. We're talking about how the company is working AI into both its new and existing products. Nowadays, the notion of a 20-year career at one company is somewhat rare. But what if that company is rooted in tradition, but is also innovating, reimagining itself, and tackling complex challenges in the legal industry? What if that company was, in fact, redefining itself and constantly building on its existing product base through the use of new technologies? That's the story we're exploring today. Today, I'm talking to Sean Fitzpatrick. He's the CEO of LexisNexis North America, UK, and Ireland. Sean spent 2 decades at the company, and he's seen the company navigate the continuous improvement of products based on massive legal databases, and they're continuing that path through the use of AI-powered solutions. In my conversation with Sean, we'll explore how LexisNexis is harnessing the power of AI to make attorneys more efficient and drive better outcomes for their clients. We're also going to delve into his insights about leadership, innovation, and the future of legal tech. So how does a company with a rich history and a long line of legal products balance tradition with the need to constantly innovate? And what does the future hold for AI in the legal world? Let's find out. Am I correct in saying a majority of your career has been at LexisNexis? Is that right?
20 years, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good chunk of time. Did you start in Dayton? Did you have to move there?
Yes, I did. That was where I started, and that was, at that point, the center where we did the technology development in the U.S. A lot of our sales and marketing was there, finance, legal, HR. Most of those things are still there, actually, but the technology center has moved to Raleigh, where I am today.
You started, it looks like your first position was Vice President of Specialized Law. What were you doing then? That was your entree to the company. Like, what's a day in the life back then?
So actually, I came in before I led the small law business, specialized law business. I was a member of the strategy team there. That's where I came in, actually. So prior to working at LexisNexis, I was a consultant at McKinsey, and I was doing strategy work, and I was working with companies that had big data and trying to put together strategies to figure out how they could integrate that content into technology solutions so that they could better serve their customers. And LexisNexis was looking for somebody to work in the strategy group. So I thought, well, this might be a good fit. LexisNexis is a big data company. And, when I sat down and talked with the folks there, they talked to me about their strategy, which, continues to be our strategy today, at least part of it, which is to take our content, embed it in technology solutions, embed those technology solutions into the workflows of our customers to serve them in more modern and meaningful ways.
You say that that's your MO still to this day. Other than the actual technology itself, which obviously we'll spend a good deal of time talking about today, at a high level, are the inner workings of the business different? I mean, you're taking this big data and trying to use it in software. Has anything really changed?
Things have changed a lot. Yeah, for sure. When I came to LexisNexis, basically they'd taken the content and they'd put it on the web, right? And so that was a good first step. But then, we've taken it so much further since then. So after we did that, we started identifying entities within the content. So we started enriching the content. This is a lawyer. This is a law firm. This is a case. This is a company, right? And so we built all that enrichment within the content. And then we started linking the content together. So now we have 150 billion links to the content. And then, now if you see a case and you click on it, you can see the other documents that might be associated with that case because we've linked them up. And then, we had a bunch of disparate products, right? And so we started to link those products together. So linking Law 360 and Lex Machina, CourtLink, Shepherds, all the different products together. And what we did then is we created really what we call our ecosystem. So we have this ecosystem of information, analytics, decision tools, and that's kind of the journey that's led us up to AI. And now we're moving into that next phase, which is an AI-powered ecosystem of information, analytics, and decision tools.
Hold the AI thought for just a second,
Sure.
Because the reason I was asking about you being at LexisNexis for about 20 years is for the last 20, 30 years, most people have hopped around jobs. They haven't been a real long time at one job, but you obviously have been there for a while. So what about the company? What about you kept you there? Like, why didn't you want to go somewhere else? I'm sure you've had opportunities.
It's a great company. I love working for LexisNexis. We get to solve, really challenging problems It's a great group of people to work with. I've always had opportunities to stretch and extend my skill set in different directions. So for me, it doesn't seem like 20 years. It's gone by very, very quickly. And I've just been really happy. The company's taken great care of me and always given me really meaningful work to do over the course of that period of time. So that's a lot of what's kept me here. And I believe in the mission of the company. LexisNexis is a mission-based company, and our mission is to advance the rule of law around the world. The World Justice Project estimates that there are 5 billion people on this planet with unmet legal needs. There's only 8 billion people on the planet in total, right? So that's a lot of folks that have unmet legal needs, and I think we can be part of that solution. And we can change people's lives. If you look at the strength of the rule of law in any jurisdiction and you compare it to quality of life metrics in that jurisdiction, you can compare it to life expectancy, infant mortality, GDP per capita. Any one of those, they correlate very tightly with the strength of the rule of law. So we believe that we're having an impact on the world and making it a better place.
So let's say someone's listening to this podcast, it's just starting out a company, or maybe even at LexisNexis, and they have aspirations to be CEO. What would you tell them to do in corporate America to get there, to achieve their goal of running the company?
Yeah, I think you have to work really hard. I think you have to be innovative, right? People are looking for people that are going to be inspired about driving change and making things better and inventing new things every day. And that's what change agents do. So I would encourage them to do those things. I would encourage them to speak up, right? No one can read your mind. You have to share those ideas that you have, and you have to be willing to do the hard work in order to drive them to conclusion. There's a million ways to fail in any initiative that you take. There's very few routes to success. It's a lot of hard work to get there, but I think that's probably the key is really making a difference in the organization.
You just alluded to it, AI. That obviously it's the new tech. It's changing the way we live and operate. I know LexisNexis has a whole suite of tools. I'd like you to talk about those like at a high level, what they are. But then even before you get there, if you could sum up in 1 or 2 sentences, what's the company's philosophy about how to approach the use of AI and what the end result and benefits of AI should be to just the public generally and legal generally?
So we think that AI can make attorneys more efficient, and we think it can drive better outcomes as well. That's really what we're focused on doing is helping attorneys with that. And it's not something that replaces attorneys. I think it augments the work that they do, and it makes them better at their job and more efficient at their job. That's the vision for AI, and it is. I wouldn't say it's a vision. I would say it's the reality of AI today, and it's got so much further to go.
We need to do more with less. That is the key takeaway nowadays from almost every survey of in-house counsel. But what if it didn't have to be that way? What if you actually could do more for less? By combining legal expertise and technology, Percipient enables legal teams to get more work done for less. Buried in contracts and sales is frustrated with turnaround time? We can help with that. Did you just get hit with a subpoena and reviewing 100,000 documents and files will tax your resources or cost you a small fortune in billable hours? We can help there too. Our team of legal professionals leverage tech and project management principles with the right amount of human oversight to deliver precise, efficient, and cost-effective legal solutions. Whether it's legal operations and contract management support, subpoena compliance, or document review, Percipient is your partner in really doing more for less. Percipient. Legal services powered by technology.
What are the suite of tools? Like if you meet somebody at a barbecue and they're asking you what all offerings does LexisNexis have at a high level, what are those tools? Because I know there's many.
We have what used to be called the AI assistant, and we've now branded it Protégé, and that's really the brand that we're going to use. Right now, it's available in Lexis Plus AI, and it's available in Create Plus, but it'll be ubiquitous across our entire portfolio of products. And if you think about, what is a protege? A protege is someone who's intelligent and dedicated and meticulous and understands you and understands your style and can help you get your work done, right? And that's what we think about when we think about protege. And this isn't our protege, this is going to be your protege. So our vision is that every attorney has their own personal AI assistant. It understands their practice area, it understands their jurisdiction, it has access to their prior work product, it understands their preferred writing style, and it can help them complete the work that they have to do, address the matters that they have before them. So it can help you with drafting. So you can draft a clause, you can draft a full document, like a motion that you would take to court, a contract, a share purchase agreement, commercial lease. We have a feature called Vault. So all of the AI products are within this Protégé umbrella. So the Vault product allows you to upload documents, and then you can do different things with those documents. So you can upload a group of documents and you could summarize them, for example, or you could upload a group of documents and you could start asking questions to that set of documents and find the answers that exist within those. You could ask it to build you a timeline. So take all of the events that occur within this set of documents and build out, one single timeline across all of the different documents. So that's the Vault feature. You can do things like drafting questions for a deposition, to help prepare for a deposition. So these are the types of things that you'll find in the product today.
You just said it a minute ago that AI is going to be ubiquitous throughout all the products.
Yes.
That being said, how do you approach innovation, AI specifically, and this is what we're talking about today, to add to the products you already have, but while maintaining the reliabilities? People used to LexisNexis, they've been using, I'm sure many people have used it for years and years and years. How do you make sure that they don't get overwhelmed or that you don't just add a shiny new object, a new button, just to add a new button?
First of all, we spend a lot of time working with our customers. We develop the products with them. So we spend time understanding, what are the use cases that they think would be valuable, where AI would be valuable and help them. And then we build products around those particular use cases. I think one of the great things about the AI technology and now with the agentic AI is you don't have to be a prompt engineer in order to get this product to work. When people see the product and they start using the product, common response is, wow, this is really easy to use and I'm getting really good results. They're not the kind of results where, you can put together a motion and just walk into court and hand it in, right? I mean, as an attorney, you're always going to be responsible for your own work product. You're going to have to review it and so on, but it'll get you the 75% answer, right? So then you can focus on just the real important strategic elements of that particular motion.
The company just announced a partnership with OpenAI. How's that going to work? What's the future state of that?
First of all, we're model agnostic. We've used the model for the task that performs best for that particular task. And we use models from OpenAI. We use models from Anthropic, Mistral. We're agnostic to the type of model. When it comes to the agreement that we just signed with OpenAI, we've been working with OpenAI since 2022. We've had, their tools in our products. The thing that's different about this particular agreement is it's going to give us early access to the models, which means that we are going to be able to incorporate them into our product and get them to our customers faster. So that's one important element. Another important element is we're going to have access to resources, to scientists at OpenAI who can help us fine-tune those models for legal use cases. So bringing in an additional level of expertise, I would say, into our product development.
What do you say to the person who says, all right, so LexisNexis, already a big company, and especially legal data is one of a couple that really, have a good hold in the legal industry. And then they partner with OpenAI, one of the big guys, if not the biggest guy. What do you say to the person that says, maybe this consolidation isn't good because all the powers just around just a couple companies? You mentioned that you're working to serve like the 5 billion people have unmet legal needs. Like, what do you say to the person that says, how are you going to do this if you're so big? Why are you going to care?
We definitely care. And I think that the fact that we've got this huge data set, we have over 100 billion documents and records in our system, and we're working with OpenAI and the other model creators to ensure that we're using the absolute best available technology in our products to serve our customers. I think that's what drives the best outcomes. And I think that fact that we're big, I don't know how much of a factor that really is. Like we're not really focused on that and the size. We're really focused on the outcomes for our customers, and we believe that we can drive those better outcomes by using our large data and incorporating it into the best available technology models.
I just thought of something as you said that the size with AI being big is helpful because you want as much data as possible in there to train those models. So that's a benefit, right? The fact that you have access to so much historic data and existing data, that's helpful in and of itself.
It is. Yeah, for sure, right? You can drive better outcomes if you have better data. And I think that's certainly an element to it. And then I would say there's another element to it, which is, with generative AI, you're creating these documents based on what, right? Like that's the question that people want to know. And with LexisNexis, you know what it's based on, right? It's based on one of the largest repositories of authoritative legal material available anywhere in the world. And we don't expect you just to trust us. We actually provide you links back to the authority. So if something, references a case, we've all seen examples of hallucinations, right? With LexisNexis, you can click on that and it'll take you right back to the authority. So you can read the case in Lexis. You can see the Shepherd's report, the case law summary, the head notes, everything right there. So you don't have to worry about whether this is a real case or not.
I don't want to fixate on the size of the company and this, but on the top of AI, there's also an interesting belief or prediction that people have is with AI, maybe it evens the playing field for smaller company because maybe somebody in their garage with 5 other people and a good AI model can compete with the big guys. As CEO is one of the established players. How are you thinking about that? Is it even a threat in your mind? And if it is, like, how are you going to compete with that if it ultimately ends up being true?
With companies that would compete with LexisNexis?
Yeah, like smaller guys, like like historically, without tech and stuff and access to capital, size would matter. But the argument I think now is with AI available to so many people and having so much information and being so smart
Yeah.
that smaller companies with fewer headcount can compete with the big guys on just certain stuff.
I can't really say what the other folks are gonna do and what they're gonna develop, but we're not so focused on competition as much as, how do we help our customers, drive better outcomes and become more efficient in their processes.
You just mentioned a minute ago, agentic AI. For those that might not understand what an AI agent is, explain that. And then why you think it's important in many, many different industries, but why you specifically think is important to legal.
Yeah, so agentic AI is AI that can autonomously complete tasks or perform sequences of tasks without being prompted to do so. And it really improves the outcomes that you get. And so I'll just give you an example. If I were going to draft a document, I might put together an outline for that document, and then I would populate that outline, and then I might share that document, that draft, with someone else who would review it and provide some feedback on it. I would take that feedback, look at all the different things that they suggested, take those into consideration, make some modifications to the document. All those steps now can be completed with these agentic AI models. So it's not just you ask it to create something and it goes out and creates it. It's actually now kind of going through a reasoning process and a multi-step process. It's all happening at the nearly the speed of light. So it's very quick, but it's performing multiple steps that a person would typically perform.
You just said it improves outcomes.
Yeah.
And then you just said right there, as you ended the answer there, that it does stuff that a person could do, but it takes more than one prompt. How does it improve the actual outcome if a person could do that?
So I think it can improve the outcome in two ways. One is it improves the outcome over just the generative AI that we had before agentic, right? Because the generative AI before agentic didn't go through that review process, right? So now it's sharing the content with another model. It's incorporating that feedback. As it does those additional steps, the answer gets better, right? So that's one way it improves it. And then when you think about combining that with an individual, so the model has come up with something, and some of the concepts and ideas within that might be unique and different than what the individual would have come up with. And so now somebody has a broader palette of things to work with as they're putting their final document together than they might have otherwise if they just used what they have in their own mind based on their own experience.
That's what it is, right? You said that AI thinks of things that the human might not have. It's that whole Go thing. When Google programmed the AI to beat the game of Go,
Yeah.
that's one of the things they figured out that the computer would make moves that the human may not ever think of because all it cared about was winning. So it was just a different way of thinking,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So the AI agent is going to think differently. Give me a draft of this brief, come about it a different way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Where does the law firms or in-house legal departments document management system, where does that fit into all this? Because Lexis, you got all your software, you got all your data, you got the AI, but then locally at your customers' offices, they've got their own documents, their DMS. How does that fit in? What's maybe on the roadmap for LexisNexis to work with that stuff, that information?
It fits in really well, actually. So, you think about what does a law firm have? The biggest asset that they have is the people, right? And what's in the minds of those people. But you can't tap into what's in the minds of those people unless those people are there and you're talking to them and so on. The one place where a lot of that information is stored is in your DMS, right? So that is the system of record for all the documents that a firm has produced. And there's a tremendous amount of value that exists within those documents. We recently did an acquisition of Henchman about just a little less than a year ago, and Henchman will help you extract the information that you need from your DMS in order to use it for AI. So, for example, if you were working on a document in Microsoft Word, you could highlight a clause within that document, and Henchman will actually look in your DMS and it will find examples of that clause, right? And so it will tell you who in your firm has worked on that type of clause the most. It will tell you information like how often is that clause used in the type of agreement that you're working on. Another thing that it can be used for is grounding data. So let's say that you want to write a non-compete for an executive that's working in the state of Arizona is part of their employment agreement. You want to write a non-compete clause. You can ask the system to do that. It will look in your DMS for examples of that, and it will use those examples as grounding data to draft you a new clause. So now the new clause has your tone. It has your expertise built into it because it's built off of work that you've done previously.
You just mentioned acquisition of Henchman. That just triggered another question I have. You know, historically, LexisNexis acquires companies. What do you look for? If you're going to do an acquisition, what's the company look for? What are the attributes that the organization has that's appealing to you?
So the things that I look for, we talked about the importance of content, right? So I look to see if they've got any unique content that might be additive to our current portfolio. I talked about the importance of technology, right? So that they have technology solutions that will allow us to take our existing content and embed it in those technology solutions and embedding those technology solutions into the workflows of our customers, again, to create greater outcomes. Those are a couple of the big things. We certainly look for talent, right? As part of acquisitions, we've had some great talent come into the organization through those. And another thing we look at is the global reach of the product, right? So we like to have products that we can sell globally. Modified for the individual jurisdictions, but the core technology is extensible globally. So those are some of the main things we look at.
How do companies out there that aren't part of the LexisNexis family now that you ultimately acquire, how do they get on your radar? How do you find out about them? Where are you looking?
We spend a lot of time with customers. We ask them, what products are you using? What are you seeing that is out there in the marketplace that's exciting, that's new, that they're starting to use the technology and it's creating value for your firm. That's the main point, the main place that we find them.
What's a day in the life for you? You mentioned travel a lot, but what's an average day look like for you as a CEO?
So I like to spend a fair amount of time with our customers, right? Really listening to them, understanding what are the challenges and the issues that they're facing in their businesses. What are the opportunities that they see? What are the technologies that they're using to solve the problems that they have? What would they like to see developed in the marketplace? So I spend a lot of time, doing that. I spend a fair amount of time with our team talking about those very same things. How are we going to solve this problem? What ideas do we have here? How's this going to work? I spend a fair amount of time doing the typical financial analysis and email and those types of things as well. I spend time with our commercial teams. How do we market this? How do we really tell our story so people understand what we do and how our products can create value for them? How are we going to sell them, so on?
I think less so now than it was couple years ago when the LLMs first came out, but I think less so now. People are afraid, but there's still a certain amount of fear that robots are going to take over the world. And, in legal, they're worried that it's going to take over associates' jobs. But I assume you don't believe that to be true. If someone were to come up to you with that fear, what do you tell them? Why do you think that's not going to be the case? That AI is going to get rid of all the lawyers?
I don't believe that at all. Well, I think if you go back in time, like I remember being early in my career and working on an M&A transaction and walking into a room with probably 50 lawyers all sitting at desks. Every single one of them had a banker's box full of contracts, and they were going through every contract looking for, specific clauses or terms or indemnification or anything that, they might want to be aware of as they're doing an M&A transaction. None of that happens anymore, right? That's all been taken over by technology. So we've seen, technology introduced into legal, and it's been substantial over time. And we just see more and more lawyers, right? There are a lot more lawyers today than there were 20 years ago. I think AI is just the next evolution of that. The products that we're creating and the products that other people are creating, quite frankly, they're not replacing lawyers. They're making those lawyers more efficient. They're helping them drive better outcomes, but they're not replacing them. And then on the other side of the equation, more work is being created, right? There's all kinds of additional work around intellectual property rights, about, how do you advise your clients on how they deploy their AI technology. So the amount of work is increasing as well, and demand for legal services is, I think it's going to go up, not down.
So you run into somebody on the street, you introduce yourself. Hey, I'm Sean Fitzpatrick. I'm CEO of North America, UK, and Ireland, and LexisNexis. You find out they're a lawyer, and they say, "Man, I'm just overwhelmed. Like all this AI, I don't know where to start. There's so many tools. All I do is read about AI." What do you tell them? What do you tell that person? Where do you start with AI as a lawyer in 2025?
You start with sitting down with like a LexisNexis rep, for example, who can understand your needs. If you ask a lawyer what they do, right, you're going to get a lot of different answers because it depends on what type of law they practice and what jurisdiction they're in, and what areas of that particular practice area they focus on. And so, I think that it starts with a needs-based discussion, understanding what lawyers are doing, and then that would move into a product demonstration to see, like, well, let me just show you what the product can do to help you in, your particular practice area and jurisdiction and so on.
Sean, I appreciate your time. Is there anything we didn't cover today that you want to cover, or anything you want to say, just generally to anybody that's listening?
Yeah, I think that the future is bright when it comes to generative AI. I think it's going to revolutionize a lot of things in the legal industry. I think, maybe 15, 20, 25% of tasks or repetitive legal tasks that are done today are going to be automated and performed by these autonomous agents. This is not 10 years from now. This is, not even 3 to 5 years from now. I think this is like, a lot of this will happen in the next year or 2 years. And I think that firms that really embrace the technology and figure out how they can use it to benefit their clients are the ones that are going to be the big winners in this whole generation shift.
You say couple years, not 10 years. Why is that? Why are you so confident that it's sooner rather than later that this is going to happen?
Because the power of the technology is so great. It's so great today, and it just keeps getting better and better and better. If you would have gone back 3 years ago and said, "What's your strategy?" Nobody would have been talking about how they were gonna use generative AI, right? So, what's happened over the last few years has been incredible, and the pace of change, just continues. We saw the OpenAI 4.0 model that launched, what, it was like September, I think, and then now we've got the '01 model, the '03 model, the '03 mini, the 4.5 model. I mean, it's incredible how quickly, this technology is continuing to evolve. So it gives me great confidence that these tools are going to continue to drive improvements in the very short term.
Sean, appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Chad. Have a good one.
Okay, that's a wrap for today's episode. As always, we really appreciate you listening. If you want to subscribe, you can find us on most major podcast platforms like Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, etc. Also, if you like us enough, I hope you leave us a favorable review. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, this has been Technically Legal.